Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, boys and girls, in this day and age, if you can find a way to put a smile on your face, just go ahead and do it. And, if you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast, where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more, in a light and in a conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do because we're listening right now. Subscribe. Please subscribe to the podcast. You can find us basically wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google. Give us that old like and subscribe. Give us the 5-star rating. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we'd absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, we're on the Twitter, and we're on the Instagram at, you guessed it, we're at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because if we love to write about it and talk about it and, well, watch it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, you guessed it, the Toronto International Film Festival is in full swing as of today from September 8th through the 18th with all sorts of fun offerings for cinephiles in the city and also all those who are clamoring here from around the globe. The business is back and it is booming and we're not quite at full speed, but we're pretty darn close, and it's a real interesting time, and it's going to be a really interesting festival, which is why we talked to a real interesting guy, friend of the show, Mr. Norm Wilner, longtime journalist and columnist and film critic in the city of Toronto. He made the jump to the other side of the aisle. And is working at TIFF. He is a programmer for digital releasing and so many more things. But we talked about just his transition over into the new job and also his job at TIFF now, and plus the unique selection of digital offerings that TIFF is going to have for audiences all across Canada in the back half of the festival. You'll hear more about it in our talk. But there is going to be a cross-section of, I believe, 24 films that will be available for a short period of time online for rent for people to see. And it's a good selection, and it's one of those curated little pieces of programming, which is so important because it really highlights the kind of stuff that I like to see at a festival, the kind of stuff that I think is important to see at a festival, to see new voices, to champion new filmmakers, and to take chances and to take risks. I mean, we all want to see the Harry Styles movie, we all want to see Spielberg, but at a festival like this, the options to sort of expand out and expand your mind are so much more, especially, and if you're a film fan who is, open to all sorts of new ideas, I cannot stress enough how important that is. But Norm, and I mean, in talking with Norm, and I mean, full disclosure, Norm's been a friend and a confidant, and given me advice over the years. He's a friend and a good man, and he's got a smile on his face again, which makes me happy. But we talked about, again, sort of journalism, him moving into the programming side of things, TIFF. And the joys of cinema, which we're kind of starting to get back again, which, we're all a little putting our foot in the water a little trepidatiously. COVID's still out there, but there's optimism in the air, and it's it feels a little weird, but we like it too. So, if you're heading out, if you want to have a little bit of that optimism, head down to TIFF, get some tickets, take a chance on something, try to see something you've never heard of, and really sort of expand your cinematic palette. But before you do that, enjoy our talk with Norm Wilner, because between you and me, it's a pretty good one. All right, well, obviously, to kick it off, we are officially in the seats with once more, and we're with a friend of the show as we sit here on the brink of the Toronto International Film Festival, where, historically, people like me would be
happy, but quietly going mad at the same time, given the amount of stuff and the deadlines, and the delays, and this, that, and the other, and trying to cram in as many movies as we can, and working on schedules, and letting schedules change, and so on and so on and so forth. But we're talking to a friend who's kind of circumvented that. He has gone over to the other side. We're talking to Mr. Norm Wilner. Norm, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good. I've crossed over. It's such a weird thing.
But I mean, that leads into my first question, because I mean, obviously, especially in the city, people know you as sort of one of the stalwart critics of our town and so on and so forth. But
Very kind.
I mean, we won't go into the demise of print media and all sort of the drama behind that, but talk to me a little bit how you got pitched this opportunity to go over to TIFF to work as a programmer on this new platform, which we're going to be talking a little bit about later on.
Well, I pitched it to them
Oh,
actually.
there you go. Okay.
Yeah, I've known Cameron Bailey for 35 years, I think.
Yeah.
We were sort of starting. He was already established it now when I started writing freelancing for the Star, and we've kind of been around each other for all that time. And even though we were both on the executive at the Toronto Film Critics Association, we were never on it together at the same time.
Mm.
So he was president, and then I came on as vice president a few years later under Brian D. Johnson. And so Cameron would come and host our awards galas every year because he's so damn good at it. But that was as close as we ever came to actual collaboration. And I started it now. Basically, I was hired it now to take over for both Cameron and for John Harkness. John died suddenly in December 2007, and Cameron was already sort of negotiating his exit to go to TIFF full time.
Right.
And so I just ended up taking on all of that, and I was at now for 14 years and a bit. And yeah, the issues at now had been going on for a while. Things were pretty grim during the pandemic, and then by fall of 2021, it was just, I'm proud of the work that I did, but working there was a misery. And it's not the fault of any of the people I worked with directly. We were all miserable. It was just a question of absolute garbage management and people who simply did not understand what Now Magazine is and does,
right,
and tried to turn it into something that it simply can't be. So while that's all going on, I'm still working and still just doing my best to keep my head above water, because the whole money situation was another thing that now did not make comfortable or good for anybody.
Especially as you're watching horrible Netflix shows over and over again.
Well, it's not even that, right? I mean, the Netflix shows are part of it, but we were so busy writing the junk listicles that they decided was the thing that would get SEO. Like when you decide you're going to chase SEO above all else, you have effectively abandoned the idea of journalism, right?
Yeah, you lose. Yeah, you lose.
You're chasing clicks and you lose sight of everything. And so if I wanted to review a Netflix show, I would watch that basically in my spare time, because that's 8 hours of television that you don't have time to watch while you're churning out clickbait. So while that's all going on, we were working 14, 16-hour days for the last 2 years. And it was just, we were all convinced that we were the ones responsible for keeping the thing alive, when of course it's the people who bought it and ran it into the ground who are the ones with that power. Yeah. Nothing I did could get me paid on time, no matter how much good work I thought I was doing. And then that just burned me out. I fully admit it. I was dead inside for most of 2021. My wife and I adopted a wonderful new dog, and that helped a lot. And then gradually, as the end of the year approached and we started to emerge from the pandemic, remember before Omicron drove us all back into—
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So there were those 4 or 5 months where you start to see life returning and realizing, oh, I hate what I'm doing. I actually actively am done. And so I reached out to Cameron. He became, I should drop back a tiny bit. I am still the programmer, a co-programmer and co-host of the Secret Movie Club.
Right, of course, yeah.
Annual series that we do. And we came back in November of 2021 to our first in-person screening since mid-February, I guess. I think the last one I did was Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always at the end of February 2020.
Yeah, that's the one I was at, yeah.
Yeah. Good movie. And so we came back with a big splashy Ghostbusters Afterlife premiere. You know, the Reitman family has this connection to TIFF, and we thought it would be a great way to make people feel like, quote unquote, the movies are back.
Right.
To come and see a movie on a Sunday morning and have there's a little intro from Jason Reitman, and Cameron was there with his family because he brought his son to see the film, and he was like, obviously he had to say some stuff at the top, and he introduced us. He introduced the season, welcomed everybody back, and he was just so warm, and we were all just riding this high. And then a couple of weeks later, after he'd been made CEO officially, he hosted the Nightmare Alley screening.
That's right.
That too, right? On December 1st. Full house.
Yeah.
Lightbox 1. That was the first time I'd done that in almost 2 years. That was amazing. And we just ended up together at there was a little concessions bar for all the guests, and we both really liked Milk Duds. And so we just had this moment of grabbing for the last box. And he got it. And
as well he should. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, he said he had said something very nice about how he'd heard things now are kind of grindy, and I think he said that I looked good despite all the cranking that I was doing. And it was like, yeah, whatever, we should talk. And so we did. We followed up, and we were supposed to have lunch in December, but Omicron hit, so it just became a series of phone calls. And by February, we had a pretty good idea of what I could do in the Lightbox. I pitched some things that haven't happened, but he pitched some other things back that did. And together, and with Jeff McNaughton as well, who's the director of programming and industry at the Lightbox. I think I've got that title right. I worked directly with Jeff, and we figured out a way that I could do stuff in the theatrical and non-theatrical spheres that I could program digitally for the festival and also year round. We were trying to do some more catalog stuff on digital.tiff.net, and that sort of snowballed into this thing that I am now, where I'm doing Q&As and intros. I've got one tonight for the territory, and probably I'll be doing some stuff during the festival as well. But I'm sort of there now. I'm just sort of, a floater is not it sounds insulting, but it's actually a pretty good way to describe me. I am a guy at large who can do stuff. My official title is Programmer, Digital Releasing and Industry Selects and / co-host Secret Movie Club, but that's complicated. So we just went with Programmer, Digital Releasing on the business card. But basically, when something needs doing and I'm able to do it, they kind of pull me in.
But I mean, that's the interesting thing. So, I mean, specifically referencing to the festival, because I mean, obviously during the quote unquote pandemic years, audiences and people and us, we got used to sort of the digital side of things. Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, for obvious reasons, it's important to push people back into theaters. Like, I definitely agree with that. Cannot stress that enough. But it's definitely nice to have the digital thing. And I mean, and when I look at sort of what you've done, and I mean, fill in the blanks for me when I'm wrong, but this is a curated selection of everything across all the programs, and it's going digital sort of on the back half of the festival.
Yeah, it'll be following in-person premieres of the films by 4 or 5 days. In some cases, it's a pretty tight turnaround. I think the Color of Ink is dropping within like 12 hours of its theatrical premiere, just because it's such a late ad in the schedule that it's playing on the last Thursday, and we've got it on the Friday. But the idea was to sort of create a sampler platter, to pull in the breadth of the festival. And, without being overwhelming, the targets were pretty modest, because everyone is just, filmmakers, agents, producers, audiences, everybody really, they're all incredibly amped up to get back in theaters. Like, it's something everybody wants to do. I don't know if that points to like a collective sense that the pandemic is over, or that we just decided that we're good with masking. I mean, I'll be wearing a mask at screenings.
As will I. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is, so many people have told me that they're excited about this, that they want to go back to the theater. And a lot of filmmakers, when we offered them digital placement, said this isn't going to affect in person, right? Because I want my movie in a theater with an audience. And it's like, nope, absolutely not. This is a second thing. We'll do it after the in-person premiere, but we want to make sure that the country gets to see these movies. We wanted to make sure people who aren't in the GTA have a chance to see your films, because that's just what I think we should do. Like that's, if it was up to me, I think we'd have a hybrid component year round for everything, but that's not practical.
Yeah,
And of course, a lot of studios and distributors just aren't interested.
of course.
Theatrical first, then digital. But what we've managed to do, and I'm really happy with it, is pull together 24 films from all disciplines. Documentaries, features, Midnight Madness, Discovery, Contemporary World Cinema, films that benefit from the additional reach that digital can offer. I would still insist that everyone watch them, on the biggest screen they have in a dark room with the damn phone off. But I also know that once we put it there, it's beyond, that's, like I can't dictate how people watch it. I would love to put a little thing up at the very beginning of everyone that just says, for the love of God, watch this in a TV, not on your laptop. Don't watch this on your phone. If you watch this on the phone, you make David Lynch cry.
It's like, here's the HDMI cord, here's the laptop, just do it.
Yeah, we've got an app on the Apple TV. We've got Chromecast.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, well, the digital TIFF Lightbox has been on Apple TV for quite a while.
Really? I didn't know that. My God.
I know. I'm not sure why, but nobody seems to get that. But yeah, if you look it up, I should actually look up the title of the app itself. But if you just search TIFF on Apple
the
TV,
App Store, yeah.
on iOS, the Apple Store, the App Store, you'll find it, and it works. You cannot order stuff directly through the app. You have to do it online, but you open your web browser, you put it in there, and then connect your account to the app, and it's right there.
Okay, so it's kind of like Vimeo, or it's similar to Vimeo.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like a watch later thing.
Okay, cool. All right. No, but I mean, that's fantastic. And I mean, in seeing the films that you picked out, I mean, I'm amazed at the work that you put in, because obviously you must have been in dozens and dozens of screenings across all sorts of platforms, but it's the kind of lineup that and not to get too inside baseball, but I mean, it's the kind of lineup that we would talk about sort of internally as we're running between screenings, like, oh, hey, did you see that? Go see that. Or, oh, did you see that? Go see that. It's the stuff that we as sort of critics and film journalists, people, what have you, are fighting for that column space for, kind of thing, that we never always get, you know what I mean? Outside of those big 20 movies that happen at TIFF.
Yeah.
How important was it for you to sort of curate something that was, I mean, obviously you're picking from the pool that everyone else picked. You're not sort of going out rogue on your own, but it's an interesting mix. How important was it for you to sort of curate something that you were passionate about?
Well, I mean, that was pretty easy, honestly. I don't think, not to blow my own horn or anything, but as a critic, I don't think you can be.
Well, it's our job to blow our horn, right?
Well, nowadays, anyway, yeah. No one's doing it for us, but I think my goal was to showcase, right?
Yeah.
So I wanted people to see the movies I think they should see. So it's a little narcissistic and arrogant in that level. It's like, I've never programmed a digital festival before, but here's what I think people should be watching. But it really does boil down to, these movies were interesting enough to me that I want to share them.
Yeah.
And we have some really, I'm stunned at the quality of queer cinema this year. And not just the quality of it, but the breadth of it, that there is stuff happening in every genre.
It's true.
There's stuff happening on small scale, on a large scale. I mean, we had Fire Island earlier this year, and we've got Bros as a world premiere, 2 studio productions written by and starring gay men, and that are both actually also really, really good. Like there's none of the yes but thing that often happens, where a niche film is heralded for breaking ground, and you sort of look past the rougher edges here or there, the movies that were made for more from passion than from a budget. And
right.
And we've all done this, and we've all seen what those things look like. And now we're just seeing polished, like finely tuned studio productions that are purely about queer people and aren't worried about getting a straight audience in. And as a result, they will appeal to straight audiences too. I don't have Bros on my shelf, but on the digital shelf, but we do have some stuff like Aristotle and Dante Discover Secrets of the Universe, which is just this terrific debut from a filmmaker, H. Alberto, who's adapted a young adult novel about 2 queer Latinx boys. Like they're in their late teens, or they're like 16, 17 years old, in 1987 Texas, which is the worst time to be either Latinx or queer.
Yeah.
And how they still managed to find comfort and support within each other. Then there's Casa Susana, a documentary about a haven in the resort hotel town of the Catskills in the 50s for trans people and queer men. There's Pussy, a film from a Vancouver director named Joseph Amenta about 3 queer kids, like 11 and 12 years old, who know exactly who they are, but they know nothing about the world. And so it's about how they need each other to navigate and figure out who they are and who they'll be. That's one of the best things I've seen this year, full stop. That was just Steve Gravestock nudged me and said, you should check this out. He was
Fantastic.
right. It's tremendous. Those are just the ones off the top of my head. There's This Place, VT90's film about 2 women in a relationship in the city, in Toronto, and being crushed by life here, because it's, as much as I love Toronto and it's a city I've lived in my whole life, born and raised, this is not a place to live if you aren't, the majority or financially secure. That's what this movie is about. It's about how hard it is to simply exist in present day Toronto. That's an element of Pussy as well, which really divides the suburbs and the city in very subtle but very sharp ways. There's The End of Sex, which has some queer elements to it. It's a new dramedy from Sean Garrity, Jonas Chernick, and Emily Hampshire, who made My Awkward Sexual Adventure together 10 years ago, and have reunited, playing new characters to tell a story about marriage in the doldrums and the desperation of a husband and wife to just reconnect to each other. They think they're trying to do it through sex, but what it really is of course, is communication. And that's great. And I know I'm leaving some stuff out, but
I mean, there's
Joyland too.
There's fun stuff in here. I mean, like Umbrella Man looks like a fun romp, man. I mean, it looks like it's gonna be a hell of an entertaining film.
It's a Cape Town heist picture. And it has one thing I've never seen in a heist picture, which is nice. I mean, it's sort of self-aware. It knows that this is another film where they don't have the money to do an Ocean's kind of production, but they're just going to have fun with the concept. And they know that we've seen all the Ocean's movies, that the audience is really familiar with heist films. And so they're just going to find other ways into it. And it's kind of bouncy and silly and has a really distinct flavor to its world. There's an authenticity that most South African cinema is more concerned with being very commercial these days. That's just where they're moving now, because all of a sudden there's an opportunity. They have studios now, and they can produce all this stuff. But this is a movie about a specific type of culture in Cape Town and the foolishness that they get up to when, it's one of those things where our heroes have to pull a heist to save the club. But it knows, again, it's this very self-aware film, and it's just goofing on what is possible in those parameters. And also the director, John Barker, mentioned that Trevor Noah was originally supposed to make it.
Really? Wow.
This film has been in production for so long that Noah got the call from The Daily Show the week they were supposed to start shooting. And so the thing fell apart for years. And they've had to recast. And obviously he says he bears him no ill will. But I think, you spend another few years working on a script and it gets a little bit sharper.
For sure. No, I mean, nothing helps like time, right?
Time or money.
Well, it's the curse we all live under, for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, I can't wait for, obviously, as we're taping this right now, not everything's been announced. There's a few stragglers left to go, but I really think this is such a fantastic program to just push out there, because again, it's one of those things where, even when I talk to sort of general public audiences, they're going to notice the Spielbergs and the Knives Out and the this and the that and the other. Those are hard to not see. These are the movies that need to sort of get pushed up a little bit from that initial sort of shiny, fun noise that, everyone seems to embrace, and really deserve audiences. And I'm so glad you got a chance to do this.
Thank you. We were never going to get the Spielberg.
Well, of course.
As much as I would have loved to have it. And I think I'm allowed to say that I've seen it at this point, and it's tremendous.
Oh, fantastic.
It feels a lot like West Side Story, in that this is a movie he's been thinking about for his whole life, and he just waited until he was in a position to be able to tell it honestly and purely. I loved it. And people are going to love it. But no, we were never going to get the really big ones, so we didn't really, it wasn't a concern.
Right.
I wanted to go for the ones that might not get the same level of representation at the festival, because as you say, we've all seen the big ones drown out the small ones. especially with, if you have the opportunity to go to a red carpet with Steven Spielberg, that's your day. Like
Of
if
course.
you have
Yeah.
the means and opportunity to do that, you will not go to see anything else that day because that's your day, that's your year. But here are those movies that you might not have gotten to on Sunday. We have them on Tuesday or Wednesday, and now you have a chance to take a look at them. And you should, because there's some great stuff. And I would also, I'm conflicted, right, with my own program, because I would happily argue that you should see most of these in the theater. But we made it possible to catch up. We made it possible to see something at home in the best possible presentation. If you have a good broadband connection, it'll look pretty good.
Yeah.
And then maybe tell other people, just talk
Well,
about
and
it.
that's the whole point, right? Especially with movies like this, spread the word, and tell people out there to catch as many as they can. And I mean, it's one of those things where that's why I've always loved the festival and just love TIFF as a whole, just because I mean, as a mandate, it seems to be sort of to push those kind of films out into the universe. And I mean, I've got to ask, this is probably a little hyperbolic, but I mean, I'm kind of curious about it.
Okay.
This is the first year where we're kind of back at full speed. And
Yeah,
there is a
very much
little
so.
bit of sense of hope to that. Do you think the hope's going to pay off, or is it just a wait? Are we waiting and seeing kind of thing?
I think everybody is making their own very specific calculations, right?
Yeah.
About how much they want to do and how hard they want to push it. I had COVID in May. It sucked. But I've been obsessively reading the reinfection stats and trying to make sure, like, I still have what they call immune memory from that infection. That
Right.
makes it safe. Like, when do I get my next booster? And is 3 months better or 4 months better? And people are coming in from all over the world. I don't think it will be as huge a concern, just because it looks like it's proving out that we're in a pretty good place right now.
Yeah.
And in 3 weeks, that's unlikely to change. So woo-hoo. I don't think it'll be fully out of people's minds. And I certainly hope I see more masks than not. But I think, I mean, it's like, I'm trying to come up with the right framing for it. I think it feels like we're ready collectively as
Right.
a culture. It feels like we want this to happen. We want to get out. We want to have a proper TIFF. People are excited. The distributors are nuts for it. They're so happy. Everybody has been saying see you in September with none of the hesitation that we got last year, where it's like, you know what, if things work out, maybe I'll come and, we'll have some in-person talent. Everybody's ready. And maybe it works. It worked pretty well last year.
It did.
I know there
think
were
it
only
did
a
too,
handful
yeah.
of cases reported because we were testing all the time. And this year, I'm not totally sure what the protocols are going to be, but I know that we're going to do everything we can to be safe. I'm going to do everything I can to, don't worry if I back up a little bit when you see that's still sort of
Of
an
course.
instinct at this point. But I'm feeling pretty confident. I think we all are.
Well, I mean, it's an understanding of the culture too. I mean, just people who are passionate about art house and docs and discovering new film aren't really the anti-vaxxer crowd either.
It's true. I have yet to have a real argument with anybody about masking in the building, like from a front of house place. I would keep waiting for it, but
I'm sure it'll happen, but yeah,
everybody's pretty respectful. I'm not. Also, it's going to be just a constant churn of people, so I think it just makes logical sense that you're going to be surrounded by people all the time. You might as well just do what you can to feel safe for yourself.
Well, that's kind of what I've been thinking. It's like I've been wearing my mask and I got all my shots for the past 2.5 years and I haven't gotten sick yet. So,
you managed not to at
I'm
all?
just going to keep doing. No, if I have, it's been asymptomatic.
That's amazing.
I have not, like if I have had it, I was 100% asymptomatic and had no clue.
I mean, it does. They say it does happen. I'm just, at this point, I'm kind of amazed that the people who haven't got it, just because it has been like, it's been everywhere.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's enough resilience, and maybe that's the gamble. Like this summer, enough people, I think half the province had it in the Omicron wave in between December and, like, those are the reported cases, which probably means it was much, much higher. But half the province supposedly had it between December and June. And
and I believe that. I absolutely do.
Yeah. And if reinfection was, I mean, this is, again, I am not a doctor. This is my layman's opinion, but I covered it for a couple of years when I was doing the Now What podcast. And if reinfection was as easy with a previous Omicron exposure, as it was feared to be, then we'd all be having it again, and we're not. We're not seeing a lot of reinfections from people who've had Omicron, which seems to be a good indicator that, Omicron infection plus vaccination is really helping. So maybe it won't be an issue by September. That would be lovely.
No, fingers and toes crossed for sure.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, just to put a bow on this, there's one more thing I got to ask. I mean, it's more about you because, I mean, obviously, you and I both have the shared affliction of being obsessed with our physical media, and things of that nature. And you started the newsletter. I mean, can you talk a little bit about, I guess, your shiny things endeavor?
I got bored. I missed writing. I mean, I was so burnt out that it didn't occur to me for the longest time. So I left now, and I quit realistically, I quit in February. I left now at the end of March officially because I burned my vacation days because the union advised me to do that. They said you're never going to see that money, so you might as well just take your time.
Yeah.
So I didn't write a word. No, that's not true. I wrote a tiny little thing for Alex Mallory Jr. in our Rising Stars issue that came out in April. I wrote that during my vacation time, and that was it. But it was just because I wanted to. That was something I couldn't do. And then I didn't write anything. When I started at TIFF, there was no writing to be done. Now, I do a little now and then, but there was no regular schedule of publishing. And after about 6 weeks, I was twitchy. I just realized, other than updating my blog every week when an episode of someone else's movie came out, I wrote about 200 words at the most every week, I was doing nothing, and stuff was still happening. Movies were still coming out, and Blu-rays and 4K are having this amazing renaissance now with labels like Blue Underground and Synapse and Shout and Scream and Criterion doing just incredible restoration work and necessary work, bringing these films back from the void. And
even stuff from doesn't even have North American releasing, but is all region, The Beast.
Yeah, who released that?
This was Imprint out of Australia.
Oh, they promised they were going to send me some stuff. It hasn't shown up yet. I am looking forward to that. But it was basically an excuse to just reach out to Imprint and Arrow and Criterion and everybody and just say, hey, I still want to write about your stuff, and I want to write specifically about physical media because it is something that I've always argued is going to be important. If not today, when everybody has a million streaming channels. And look at just what's happened this week with HBO Max.
No,
right?
exactly.
They deleted hundreds of hours of programming, and if you didn't have that on disc, it's gone. I'm really holding out hope that Criterion, through their deal with Warner, releases the HBO Max movies that Soderbergh made, because those are going to disappear, and they're not available anywhere except in DVDs, which, let's get some high def stuff.
We still do technically have them on Crave up here, but for the States, they've been they're leaving. So
I just assume once they lose the rights there, they'll lose the rights here. I mean, the whole point of it,
I'm sure it'll happen at some point.
Right?
Yeah,
we're trying to get rid of this stuff and scrub it from the world. And in addition to the sheer callousness of depriving audiences of all the entertainment that's there, that they produced, paid for, and are finished with, they're also gutting the residuals pipeline for all the artists who worked on that stuff, which is really just evil. All just to cross a couple of lines on a balance sheet. I think that's absolutely vile. But as long as you have the stuff on disc, it's not going anywhere. No one's going to delete my Criterion shelf off of my actual physical bookshelf.
Yeah.
and so I just
be fair, Norm. It's shelves plural.
It's one bookshelf that is filled with shelves. How about that?
Okay, fair enough.
But I wanted to write about the stuff that no one else was writing about. And now more people are writing about it again, which is great. And I'm not I can't take credit for that. I'm part of the wave of people discovering all of these things. But I figured it would be, if nothing else, it would just be fun to exercise that muscle and not have to worry about chasing SEO or meeting some sort of artificial or imaginary benchmark. I'm just going to write about the stuff I want to write about, which means it's stuff that I like, or it's stuff that fascinates me. I wrote about Flatliners coming back on 4K a couple of weeks ago because that is the most 90s movie ever made, and the idea that it was actually shot in 1989 and predicted everything that was to come is fascinating to me. But that's what I'm doing. I'm just having fun with it and telling people what it is that they should pick up. Like last week, I wrote about the 4Ks of God Told Me To, and
the God Told Me To disc is amazing. It looks so good.
And that film is just such a weird, unique delight to be coming back into the world now.
For sure.
And just the chance to, like the chance to write about Larry Cohen. I was never going to be able to do that for someone who's paying me. So this way I might as well do it myself.
Well, God, hell, man, that's why I do what I do. I mean, geez. I mean, I watch too much, but I mean, that's another story entirely. But
there's no cure for that.
no, well, no, I know, but I mean, why does, like, when I do the podcast, why does my episode with William Lustig, going for like 45 minutes, why is that my highest hitter? Obviously, because people are interested and want to know and are, enjoying sort of the older stuff. Because I mean, really, when it comes to physical media, streaming, like when in the realm of TV, it feels like the Holy Grail has been hit. Everything has been released. It's kind of out there for the most part. For film, so many people don't understand that it's barely scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, there's so much stuff that isn't available on disc or like even readily available on streaming services. The question is, who sifts through all of it and finds the stuff that's worth saving from the
therein lies I mean, I was at the Lightbox the other weekend to see The Servant, which I had never seen, and I absolutely loved it. Then I was like, what do you mean the disc is out of print?
Oh yeah, I still have mine. Actually, I think I got the Blu-ray when I was in the UK the last time or the time before that. It was either The Servant or Accident, but one of those films. The other one I still have on DVD. But yeah, no, when things go out of print, they become the province of used stores and the occasional, like Bay Street Video is still a mecca for finding lost titles. But
proud sponsor of the show.
Oh, good for you. And all the more precious that they are still out there. And that people are clamoring to get them back into circulation.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, I think obviously with the newsletter, but I mean, with the films that you've highlighted here for TIFF, it's important to put that stuff out there in the universe for people to see. And I mean, I just want to, again, thank you for the work and thank you for the time. And thank you for being a friend, because we've known each other for a while. And I mean, hell, this is fun as always. But again, thanks for doing this, and congrats on the new gig.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you for supporting the new gig and everything else too.
It's nice to see you with a smile on your face. Let's just say that much. So
it's definitely been a while, I will say.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.